ang kawani ng Bureau of Immigration at Manila International Airport Authority. Hinihinalang kasabwat sa human trafficking.
Binansagan ni Senator Risa Hontiveros na Pastilla Scam Part 2 ang panibagong anomalya na kinasasangkutan daw ulit ng Bureau of Immigration. Pero mas malala raw dahil mga Pinoy ang binibiktima para sa Chinese mafia sa Myanmar.
Hindi lang pala tumuli ang pastillas, lumala pa, no, at naging mas creative pa. At para saan? Para gawing pain yung ating mga kababayan ng Chinese mafia. Hindi ko alam ano itong nasisikmura. Are leading our people to a slow death. Aware po ba ang BI sa problema ito?
A senator is seeing a reboot of the so-called Pastilla scheme, travelers bribing their way through airport counters. This time, the activity supposedly involves Filipino workers recruited for overseas investment scams. How true and how extensive is this practice now? We will discuss in this episode of The Chiefs. Welcome to The Chiefs. Ako po si Robbie Alampay. Kasama po natin online Ami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star. She's joining us from Manila. And kasama natin dito sa Mandaluyong in studio, Ed Lingao of One News. Chiefs, good evening.
Evening.
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. Ami, ano bang balita natin?
Hindi happy siguro kami ni Lucci. Hindi namin kailangan mag-boarding. Over the weekend ng salmon at saka pampano. Mukhang hindi matutuloy yung ban ng sale sa wet markets.
Which was supposed to be on Sunday, di ba?
Yeah, on Monday mag-umpisa, di ba?
Last Sunday, yeah.
Kapit na tayo sa 20 pesos per kilo. Kung susukatin mo lang sa kadiwa rice.
And yung kadiwa is not open every day,
Hindi.
Actually, a lot of people don't know that. Even reporters don't seem to know that. Hindi bukas ang kadiwa every day. It's only every 15th and 30th.
Sa swelduhan lang.
so
Mauubusan ka.
And that depends on availability pa dun sa schedule na yon. So,
Pero gusto daw niyang i-roll out nationwide. Gusto daw ni President Marcos.
Speaking of kadiwa, another term that's trying to make a comeback in the lexicon of government right now. Maharlika. Ami, do you have a story on that? Itong Maharlika Sovereign Fund?
Ano yan?
Yung Maharlika Sovereign Wealth Fund.
Oo nga. What did you ask?
May istorya ba kayo dyan tomorrow?
Of course. Oo. Pero pinag-uusapan na eh. At saka nag-issue ng statement ng Joint Foreign Chambers. Wait and see daw sila. They want to hear the details muna bago sila mag-react. So, hindi pa rin alam eh. Medyo malinaw. Hindi pa rin masyado malinaw. Although, ewan ko kung ano pa yung detalye yung kailangan nila.
Ano bang detalye meron tayo?
Malaman kung ano yung mga areas of investment.
I asked already for a copy of the House bill kasi so far what I can find online HB 3986 is establishing daycare centers sa Misamis Oriental. So lumang Congress ba 'yon? Pero from what I understand from the hearing kanina is that lumabas dun sa panukala that the President himself is going to be the chairman of the Maharlika Investment Fund. At the same time, I thought na recommendation nga ni Joe Salceda,
independent.
Independent dapat yan from government interference para ma-depoliticize. But if you have in the bill the President acting as the chairman, then that raises a whole slew of baggage.
I mean, we will have to devote one or two or maybe 3 episodes here. Definitely lalalim pa yung usapan dyan. But a lot of economists already chiming in, questioning not only the fiscal side, but even the political and governance side. Mr. Chiquiamco, for example, I saw him on the big story kanina saying na, we need rule of law and we need the track record of really showing people that we're ready for this.
Yeah, kasi they're also looking at the example of Malaysia.
Malaysia, 1 MDB.
SS and GSIS members nagpo-protesta na rin. natin, di ba?
Ah.
Don't touch our funds.
Maybe actually we didn't have time to touch on that, but that's a question that will of course come up. Government keeps citing, and our legislators cite, for example, sovereign wealth funds in Europe, North America, closer to home. They mentioned Singapore. They mentioned no mention of Malaysia.
Yeah. But kasi in theory, it makes sense in theory to have a sovereign wealth fund if you have the money and you can afford to gamble the money. Kaya as a general rule, the countries that do gamble in sovereign wealth funds, these have a lot of cash on hand, surplus cash, and they don't have much debt, if at all. That's why a lot of these countries, they use their oil money. And these are oil-generating countries, most of them. They use their oil money kasi that's cash na surplus which apparently we don't have.
Anyway, like we said, obviously kami maraming tanong. Obviously kayo maraming tanong. We will be devoting some time for that. But in the meantime, we will speak to our first guest after a quick break. The Chiefs will be right back. A Senate inquiry is uncovering the outbound trafficking of Filipinos to Myanmar for supposed crypto scamming jobs. How can this happen under the Bureau of Immigration's watch? Joining us on the show, Senator Risa Hontiveros. Welcome to the Chief, Senator.
Thank you at magandang gabi sa inyo, Robbie and Ed and Amy.
Good evening.
Ma'am, of course, pagka sinabi niyong pastillas part 2, people already have an idea, but you've also said that in a way this is worse, as you said. Paki-describe nga po ng modus dito. Ano bang nangyayari?
Ayon kina alias Rita at alias Baby at alias Paulo, these are either victim survivors in the case of the two women or sa huling sandali pulled back from the brink, buti na lang at hindi tumuloy si Paulo. But they all have come forward to tell their harrowing stories. Mukhang ang modus nagsisimula sa ire-recruit sila at ang masaklap pa dito ng mga kababayan natin, mga Pilipino rin. In the case of Rita, a woman going by the name of Len, and that's also her account name on Facebook. At sa kaso naman ni Paulo, a woman who he identified by a whole name, Liza Magallanes, papangakuan sila ng trabaho, in their case, bilang mga call center agent o data encoder sa Thailand. And then, ang nangyari in the case of the two women, paglapag sa Thailand, Rita, she and her group were taken on a 7 to 8 hour long trip na parang pamisteryoso ng pamisteryoso yung kinalalagyan nila. They traveled at night in tall grass, crossing a river. Kalauna nasa Myanmar na pala sila. Si alias Baby took an even more circuitous route. First flew to Zamboanga and then took a speedboat to Malaysia, different areas of Malaysia, and from Malaysia was brought also into Myanmar. Pagdating nila doon, they were shocked to find out hindi pala sa parang call center maging trabaho nila. They were forced to act as cryptocurrency scammers, to recruit potential investors, make them trust them, even maybe fall in love with them, and then eventually take
funds from these people. May quota sila. Pag hindi sila nakaka-deliver, as in the case of baby, grabing mga parusa at mga banta ang ibinibigay sa kanila, to the point that Rita sought for help after about 4 months of this nightmare, sought help from whatever government agency, NGO, finally my office also, that she could contact. Si baby naman ay halos nasa bingit na ng kamatayan. Naawa na lang yung mga kasama niyang OFWs din. They pitched in money just to send her home so that she wouldn't die in the hands of her Chinese syndicate boss. Pero may kapalit pa yun, literally. May palit ulo for baby to be allowed by her bosses to come home. And it was a Mrs. Joy who testified to us via video, whose husband ang naging palit-ulo para makauwi si baby. And Joy also confessed to the committee that natatakot talaga siya na sa pagkaalam niya, sinasaktan din yung asawa niya, and she didn't know if he would be able to come home alive. Si Paulo was able to tell us when he got to the airport, the day he was supposed to leave, October 4, naka-check-in na siya sa AirAsia. Pinagalitan siya nung kanyang recruiter dahil hindi pala siya daw dapat dadaan sa Bureau of Immigration. He was supposed to pose as an airport employee and leave the country as an employee. In fact, binigyan pa siya ng fake ID ng W.H. Smith, which apparently is one of the concessionaires inside NAIA. And he was given the clothes, I guess, the uniform of W.H. Smith to wear. Pinababa siya sa arrival area ng Bay 13. And then when masyado na siyang kinukutuban sa mga weird na pangyayari, he backed out. Pinagalitan siya ni Liza Magallanes. Marami na daw silang ginastos para sa kanya. But he was sent to a coffee shop, tinatakan ng isa pang, akala niya nung una, Bureau of Immigration staff, tinatakan yung passport niya ng, sabi naman ni Commissioner Tansinko ng BI at the hearing, fake stamp ng BI, which reads void. So we have this apparent syndicate, Chinese syndicate or mafia, trafficking Filipinos out of the Philippines. So ang tanong, paano sila nakakalusot? Past BI, we must ask also past the Manila International Airport Authority. We'll call them again next hearing, pati yung Aviscom. Pagdating sa Thailand or sa Malaysia, ita-traffic na sila into Myanmar, dyan sa Shwe Koko Special Economic Zone, or it's colloquially there called Scam City, where they go through that nightmare of being forced to scam other nationals, going through terrible punishments and threats. First batch pa lang itong kina Rita na binarawan na rescue.
Speaking of first batch, very quickly, do we know how long this has been going on, and do we have any idea kung gaano karami ang nabiktima na?
Ang sama ng loob at iniyakan ni Rita ay before she got there had already been, she learned, 2 other OFWs. Nireklamo si Len din. And yet nagpatuloy apparently kasi umabot pa kay Rita na nasadlak siya sa ganyang sitwasyon. Rita and a baby said there are more. At first, we heard the number at least 31. Later, we were hearing possibly 40 plus, and from other sources, 50 plus. And sabi nila, yung kumpanya nila, hindi lang yon ang nag-ooperate sa Shwe Koko. And when you see the map of Shwe Koko, Special Economic Zone, ang laki pala niya. So if there are other companies operating along the same modus operandi there, ngayon nag-iisip ang mga tao, may daan-daan kaya na mga kababayan natin na nandoon, mga OFWs na kailangang ding i-rescue.
Ma'am, one would think that walang makakalusot sa airport dahil isang katerba ang security doon. Ang hirap man pumasok eh. Ang daming dadaanan. Unlike other countries, doon pa lang sa entrance may check ng dokumento, may x-ray machine ka and all that. Tapos ang katerba yung CCTVs. So I suppose it should be easy to trace or to track down kung sino ang nakipag-meeting kanino. Have they been able to explain that? I suppose that's the first thing that they could and should do.
Right. Kaya ayon nga sa MIAA, today there was an interagency meeting to try to get to the bottom of this, at kaya iimbitahin din namin ang Aviscom sa susunod na hearing kasi nga paano nakakalusot pati sa security nila. The fact that there was an interagency meeting shows that perhaps this is not exactly a Pastillas Part 2 kasi napagalaman natin noon 2020, ang Pastillas was a very highly organized, literally syndicated operation, and apparently all under yung mga tiwaling kawani at opisyal ng BI. Ito parang may iba't ibang mga ahensya na kailangang tanungin So is this a case of something more fragmented pero taking advantage pa rin ng ating mga OFW and sending them into, sabi ko parang slow death parang modern slavery.
Senator, magkano naman yung ino-offer? Kasi call center yan. It requires a certain level of skill, no? And
That's right.
Hindi ka basta-basta malolo ka dyan And if they can handle cryptocurrency scamming, nakakaintindihan ng technology, no?
Kami nga
Magkano
hindi.
kaya yung pinangako sa kanila at magkano if they know kung magkano na yung nagagastos sa kanila just to bring them to that border between Thailand and Myanmar.
Hindi nila sinabi kung alam nilang magkano ang ginastos para sa kanila. Pero at sa simula hindi nila alam na cryptocurrency scheme ang kanilang tatrabahuin. Pero they were promised 30,000 pesos plus up to 40,000 up. Although for one, Paolo said, sinabihan siya na yung kanyang naging escort o facilitator sa NAIA ay babayaran niya ng 30,000 pesos din kakaltasin sa sweldo nila. So, and if we recall na nung pinayagan sa huli umuwi si baby because she was on the brink of death, kailangan may palit ulo. So, tinatrato talagang commodities na pinag-investan nitong mga napaka-cynical na syndicate or mafia sa pagkaalam nila Chino. So, they must be making money out of this. Hindi lang and especially from the cryptocurrency scams that they force our kababayan to engage in.
Ma'am,
Meron bang involved na people from Myanmar? Kasi, well, we know that it's a closed society at this point.
Yes.
No? And but you are talking about Chinese triads. Alam naman natin they really operate in that area. Pero sa Myanmar, have we coordinated with their government to find out kung, well, of course, hindi siguro aamin yan kung meron man. But anong klaseng assistance ang pwedeng hingin sa kanila kung sakasakali?
Well, in terms of regional and international assistance, ang una na rin pwedeng hingian ng tulong ng gobyerno natin ay yung ibang mga ASEAN countries including Malaysia and Thailand na tulad natin party sa ASEAN Convention Against Trafficking. Medyo mas masalimuot siguro, although member country ang Myanmar sa ASEAN, mas masalimuot siguro yung relasyon sa gobyerno dahil ito nga yung junta, no? And they're suffering a civil war right now. They are under their own martial law. So but we do have an embassy in Yangon. Pero as far as Department of Foreign Affairs is concerned, talagang pasasalamat sa kanila, partikular sa Philippine Embassy in Bangkok. Kasi ito yung sumalubong sa unang dosena ni Rita when the international NGOs in Myanmar ay naitawid sila sa border ng Thailand.
Ma'am, on either side, doon sa pinakang taas, yung sindikato, and then at bottom, yung mga kababayan natin lalo na. First is, you mentioned Chinese syndicate. Given that this is in Myanmar, nagdaan sa Thailand, nagdaan sa Malaysia, and so on, where do we get the information and the confidence to say that this is in fact a Chinese syndicate ultimately? And then doon sa hanay naman natin, yung mga nabibiktima, is this specifically targeting Filipinos? Lalong-lalo na kung pinapain sila to get clients from different countries. I imagine the English capacity is part of the premium here. Is this scam specifically recruiting Filipinos?
Ayon kina Rita, yung pagre-recruit sa kanila is part of really a plan of this Chinese syndicate or mafia. And I'll tell you why I'm confident to narrate that point to you. Plano daw nila mag-recruit talaga ng all-Filipino team para dyan sa cryptocurrency scam. Dahil nga, hindi lang sa ating kasipagan sa trabaho, but our facility in the English language. At yung information na ito daw ay Chinese scam, or rather syndicate or mafia, galing din kina Rita at saka Baby, who actually arrived there, suffered the work there, and were able to be rescued or to be sent home. Also, this the tip about the Chinese identity of the syndicate or the mafia is because yung may-ari ng company na tinrabahuan ni na Rita, it's Yatay International Holdings. I'm forgetting the exact name, but Yatay Company, it's owned by a Chinese national na kamakailan lang inaresto sa Thailand. And that Chinese national has various businesses here in the Philippines. And in fact, may at least isa pang kumpanya dito naman based sa Pilipinas na Yatay din. At ito yung isang tanong na itinanong ko sa privilege speech. May connection ba sa earlier, familiar sounding names na nakaka-deja vu? Because the Yatay company here in the Philippines has as one of its officials no other than Lincoln Ong. So natanong ko sa privilege speech, yung Yatay company ba dito sa Pilipinas at Yatay company which previously had employed and abused si Rita in Myanmar, sister companies ba to? Katulad ba sila nung formerly companies noon na inimbestiga din namin sa Senado?
So ano yung sinagot sa inyo? Kasi I think the lawyer of Lincoln Paul was already denied na sila yun eh. Have you established the truth dyan sa issue na yan?
We are yet to investigate that during the hearing, pero dahil yung privilege speech ko, including that last question, was referred to my committee and secondarily and tertiary to two others, ay itatanong din namin iyan.
Ma'am, nabanggit nyo nga na on one level, you can't actually call this pastillas too dahil parang mas masalimuot to. These are people going out as opposed to letting people back in. But postscript lang, if possible, dito sa pastillas 1. Not that sarado na yan completely. But ano po ba nangyari sa Bureau of Immigration since that time that we've been looking at it? You would assume that mas listo and that mechanisms have been put in place. Ano po ba nangyayari sa Bureau of Immigration ngayon?
Akala nga natin pagkatapos ng medyo malawak na paglilinis nila noon, there were tens of their foot soldiers and mid-level pastillas suspects who were preventively suspended for half a year without salaries, and eventually marami sa kanila ay kinasuhan at tinanggal sa trabaho sa Bureau of Immigration. So akala talaga natin pagkatapos ng ganyang mahabang investigasyon, hindi lang ng Senate Committee on Women, pero ng BI mismo, ng DOJ at ng NBI, the case build-up and the prosecution and conviction, na kaya nakakashock na may mangyaring ganito ulit. At natatanong, sino pa ba ang natitira doon to give the go signal for this kind of human trafficking to have an exit door through our own airports, and apparently in the case of a Baby, through our seaports as well.
Are there reforms possible? Kasi in aid of legislation coming yung investigation. Ano kayang pwedeng gawin to stop these anomalies from happening? Marami-rami yung ports natin, airports, seaport, kung saan-saan sila dinadaan. What can be done kaya?
Alam naman natin na yung pinaka malalim at matagal na trabaho to eliminate human trafficking is to address the roots. So yung patuloy na pag-ahon natin sa ating mga kababayan sa kahirapan so that migrant work and even risky migrant work is not the only or the best option na makapag-generate tayo ng mas maraming disenteng trabaho at hanap buhay dito mismo sa ating bansa. But when we do go abroad for work, di kailangan mag-step up talaga yung ating mga labor agencies to enable, to capacitate us to undertake that kind of work on an equal footing with the nationals in that country, covered by same labor laws or migrant labor laws there. And if and when we still get into trouble there, hopefully not as terribly katulad ni Narita at kina Baby, na consistent, mahusay at responsive yung representation sa atin doon ng ating mga embahada at saka konsulado. And as we were talking also about earlier, importante talaga yung inter-regional and international cooperation to crack down on human trafficking. Iba pang aspeto yung dun sa cryptocurrency scamming, no? Ang dami ding kailangan tignan siguro paano re-reformahin o i-regulate yung international financial system, yung iba't ibang financial intermediaries na ginagamit doon, let alone the internet, to crack down on these kinds of scams.
Ma'am, maiba lang ako ng konti. Kasi malaking usapin ngayon sa Kongreso, sa lower chamber, yung pag-andar, ang paggulong nitong panukala para sa Maharlika Sovereign Wealth Fund. I'm sure you've heard about it. Aprobado na ng committee kanina na sa lower chamber, dun sa Committee on Banks. I'm certain that the senators are also talking about this kasi if it does get past the House, it's also going to the Senate. Your take on this Sovereign Wealth Fund?
Well, makarinig lang ako ng salitang Maharlika, medyo nagkakahibig-jibis din ako dyan eh. It's part of the legacy of the martial law dictatorship, yung myth-making na talagang sinusubukang pigain, to really milk it, nire-rehabilitate yung alaalang iyon to the detriment of accountability for human rights violations and plunder of the past. And speaking of plunder, kasi ang Sovereign Wealth Fund, well, hindi naman yun magiging bagong imbensyon sa mundo. Pero pag tinitingnan natin sovereign wealth funds, these are state-owned and managed funds, usually sourced from, gaya ng sinabi mo kanina, Ed, reserves ng isang bansa. Ngayon, ina-articulate pa na baka immobilize dito sa Sovereign Wealth Fund na ito yung mga pera ng mga miyembro ng SSS, GSIS, Pag-ibig. So medyo teka muna. Pag-usapan natin yung ng maayos at pag-isipan dahil ang pension fund, yan ay pagmamay-ari pa rin ng mga miyembro kahit pa depende sa mga charters nila, yung mga pension institutions may invest this. But, given very strict rules, IRRs laid out in the charter, hindi basta-bastang pwedeng angkinin lamang ng Estado because in those pension institutions, they are state funds, yes, but held in trust by government for the members, ang mga mamamayan.
Ma'am, pero ma'am, si Congresswoman Stella Kimbo, I think she's still with the Liberal Party, although I know you're with Akbayan, but this is an allied party from your perspective. She's a co-sponsor of the bill.
And I really respect Rep. Stella as an economist. Pero dahil hindi pa naman naka-file o tinatalakay ang counterpart measure na ganyan sa Senado or hindi pa umaakyat sa amin, kasi syempre lahat ng mga revenue bills ay nag-emanate muna sa House. Pagdating sa amin, then we will have the opportunity to, in our own formal process, really hear it in committee and then lalo na debate it sa plenary kung aabot sa interpellation.
Ma'am, if you don't mind, in the context of the plenary at the Senate, kamusta po ba ang opposition? I mean, how would you assess so far under this Congress your voice, your influence, your ability to to at least have the opposition's voice not only heard, but really making a difference?
May magandang tradisyon ang Senado at kami ni Minority Leader Sen. Coco Pimentel ay fully intending and have been operating on that commitment the past 5 months na may espasyo talaga ang minority sa loob ng Senado. As part of checks and balances, as part of fiscalizing within and beyond the Senate, lalo na vis-a-vis the executive. And so far, yung numerical smallness namin ay na-deleverage pa rin naman on, I think, what have been important debates, for example, on the sugar importation fiasco, sa legacy ng batas militar, and more recently, yung budget, lalo na sa confidential and intelligence fund. So kahit siguro, pagdating dito sa issue ng sovereign wealth fund, and I think possibly we won't be alone either, kaming dalawa lang. Kasi depende sa tinatalakay, depende sa advocacies ng bawat senador. And we find that we can make common cause across the minority-majority divide. And then beyond the Senate, andyan pa naman yung opposition forces, and we do intend to broaden and to strengthen para maghalal ng mas maraming opposition senators at local government officials at district reps na rin para to be in a better position to contest in 2028 as well.
I think you have a good chance in 2023 kasi yan ang sinasabi ng mga tao, considering your performance in the past 2 elections. Sabi nila ano bang preparation? How can you do things differently this time?
Yun ang mga tanong na kailangan naming sagutin sa aming sarili and really use the answers to improve how we work politically, electorally. So yun yung inaatupag namin these days. Alam namin that we've lost the last 3 electoral cycles and kailangan naming alamin, no? At tanggapin at gamitin yung mga leksyong iyon to organize and fight better so that we can win.
Okay. Senator Risa Hontiveros, ma'am, maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat.
Thank you.
Senator.
Thank you.
And we'll start up another conversation after this breather. The Chiefs will be right back.
Prices of some Noche Buena items may increase as the holidays near.
Ihanda na ang bulsa sa mga paghanda sa Noche Buena. Mga sangkap sa fruit salad tulad ng all-purpose cream, ang laki ng minahal.
Role ng DTI ay makipag-ugnayan po sa ating Noche Buena manufacturers to temper any increase. Kasi nakikita nyo naman po, even in previous years, pag nakikiusap po si DTI na huwag po tayong magtaas ng Noche Buena products, eh napagbigyan naman po tayo.
Welcome back to the Chiefs on One News. There's no stopping the holidays, but it looks like there's also no stopping price increases. Let's get an update from the Department of Trade and Industry. And with us is Undersecretary Ruth Castelo, now joining us via Zoom. Ma'am, magandang gabi and thank you for joining us. Welcome back to the Chiefs.
Oh, hi, Ed, Robbie, and Ma'am Amy. Good evening po.
Magandang
Thank
gabi
you for
po.
having me back here.
Thank you, ma'am, for joining us. Ma'am, at least in broad strokes, can you give us what it looks like as far as prices are concerned and what it looks like coming December in terms of how things are moving up?
Yes, Ed. The DTI naman is not very happy announcing price increases or talking about price increases. But this time, yung Noche Buena products natin that we will serve on our dinner tables on Christmas and New Year, inevitably, kailangan po talaga nilang magtaas, and prices have already gone up beginning August. So if you would remember hearing DTI encouraging consumers to start buying at that time, because we knew that the prices were still going to go up until November. And that is actually what has happened. We have issued the Noche Buena price guide just to give an idea to the consumers how much these products cost in the retail market now.
Yes, but we also heard na from the Supermarkets Association na quite significant na pagtaas ng mga products that are especially sugar-based. I don't know kung ano pang iba, pero ano yung mga unusual movements?
Unfortunately, yes, Ed, we have increases for up to until 27%, but 27%. These are only a few of the products. Hindi naman lahat, maybe one or two, especially the big items like Christmas ham. But we have as low as 1 to 10%, and then we have 10 to above 10% increases na. Siguro yung 27% is just one. Maybe one or two items lang in the list.
What's that, if you don't mind? Kasi malaki-laki, that's a third eh.
Yeah, it's Christmas ham, increased by around 42 pesos, as high as 56 pesos pa nga, pero on queso de bola. Pero just a few shelf-keeping units. In the Noche Buena price guide kasi, we have around 223. And then the increases, with more than 10% increase, hindi naman siya masyadong madami.
Yusek, naiinip na mga tao kailan daw bababa ang supad. Tapos up to now, mga hanggang 100 pa rin na kilo, up to 108 actually nakikita ko eh.
Yes, ma'am.
90 to 108 pa rin eh.
Opo, today we had the National Price Coordinating Council meeting, chaired by the Secretary Pascual, and we received a report also from the Sugar Regulatory Administration, and they said that prices will begin lowering down or decreasing in the early part of next year. But right now, at least if it's any consolation, we still have the 70 pesos per kilo of sugar po sa Robinsons, SM, and Pure Gold supermarkets, the chains that have made a commitment to the President, ma'am.
Bakit next year pa? Kasi I understand yung sugar 150,000 metric tons. They started arriving end of October, di ba? And the harvest started this month and the milling season this month as well.
Yes, ma'am. Adjustments are going to be made this month in December, but of course, we will feel the effect po mga early part of next year. The SRA also reported that we have already around at least 20 or maybe close to 20 the number of sugar millers associations that are now back into the grind. Dumami na po sila, kaya mas madali na rin natin mapaprocess the harvests that we have. Kaya po, that is also one of the reasons that SRA is saying that prices of sugar will begin to go down in the first quarter of next year.
Nabanggit po natin ang sugar, hamon, queso de bola. What about fresh produce? Ano pong outlook natin dyan?
Fresh produce from the Department of Agriculture, the report is that prices of vegetables and other meat products are lower this year compared to the prices last year. Mas mababa po, and the Department of Agriculture is also doing its own para ma-connect directly from the farmers directly to the market. Nababawasan na po somehow the trading layers in agricultural products, especially also that they have Kadiwa sa Pasko project, together with other government agencies like DTI, DSWD, and all that. Bababa na rin po eventually this month happening, but effects will be felt po early next year.
What about yung fish? Kasi we're importing 25,000 metric tons as well. Kumusta naman yung supply ngayon?
Supply, actually, ma'am, whether it's manufactured food product or agricultural food products, wala po tayong problema sa supply. Except that, of course, government is doing the hardest para po mapababa ang presyo. On fish, DA said, if I remember correctly, that they are also beginning to stabilize prices of fish. Kasi the more that we encourage fisher folks to catch more, mas konti po ang magiging importation natin, mas-stabilize ang presyo ng local fish natin dito sa market.
Ma'am, pasensya po, dami pong nagme-message sa akin. Daming mga phone-in na request. Yung itlog daw po, prices are up by as much as 10 pesos per tray. What is it with eggs? And in general, etong mga nagtataasan, if it were not the Christmas season, would the supply actually be stable? In other words, is this also being driven by abnormally high demands for different items?
Supply po is really stable. Like I mentioned, whether it's fresh or whether it's agricultural or manufactured, supply is not an issue. But the prices, yung itlog nga po, mura pa nga yung 10 pesos na naririnig ko, because I heard that we had also in the meeting today the representatives of the United Broilers Raisers Association, and they said that prices of the medium-sized egg parang nasa 17 pesos yata. I think so. Yung 10 pesos po is still a good price. And of course, this is impacted by logistics rin, yung transport cost, and of course fuel, and then processing or manufacturing that use fuel, kaya po rin prices are driven high talaga.
Ano pa kayang pwedeng magawa apart from inspecting and trying to prevent people hindi naman sa overpricing actually, no? But trying to stabilize prices during this season of high demand?
Opo. Noche Buena products, yung Christmas products po natin talaga, ma'am, we really cannot do anything because the DTI cannot regulate these products because they are neither basic nor prime. Pero at least po doon sa basic necessities and prime commodities under the mandate of the department, we are able to maintain prices. Kung maalala niyo po, we made a publication of the latest price adjustment in August. And then Secretary Pascual has continued to give us instructions on reviewing prices even of raw materials that are either locally sourced or imported from other countries. So ngayon po, Secretary Pascual is asking for the cost components and the movement of production. So hindi pa po tayo, we can rest assured that we are still not adjusting prices or increasing prices. Secretary Pascual specifically told the members of the meeting today that it would probably have to be done after the holidays. Hindi na po itong Christmas na to.
There's a report from overseas na medyo nagkakaita ng global supply of butter. Are we feeling that in the Philippines?
Hindi naman po. Butter, of course, the raw materials are imported, pero marami naman po tayong local producers. And so far, we have not received any concern or any report from the manufacturers that we will have shortage or mababawasan ng supply. The DTI po is also encouraging manufacturers to produce more, kasi the more products that we have in the market na visually talaga nakikita ng tao, medyo kahit papaano po the mindsetting hindi we would be able to pull prices down. Kaya, like I said, manufacturing should be intensified, and the displays also in the market should be seen by the public na hindi po nag-ubusan ng supply. Kasi pag medyo nakikita na nila na kumonti na yan sa shelves, the tendency for us is to panic and so buy more, and then which will be one reason to drive the prices high.
Are you also monitoring consumption patterns? Are you comparing, for example, consumption at this time compared to the past 2 years ng pandemic?
We have some information, pero not directly po. We are not doing this, but we have some information also that the consumption pattern has somehow dwindled a little bit. Even in retail markets, medyo kumukonti po yung demand, nababawasan, especially for mga big ticket items. Hindi po siya kagaya in the past, na especially pre-pandemic, lalo na po ngayon, mas mababa pa ang demand ng even basic necessities because we understand na syempre yung in the lower part of the spectrum, mga hindi makaka-afford. That's why DTI, yung basic necessities po, very important because we know that these are the products that are regularly consumed. Kaya po pilit namin siya talagang binababa or pinipigilan mag-akyat ng presyo.
Ma'am, cambio naman ako, yung Kadiwa stores, although I do understand that Agriculture Department talaga yung primary sa Kadiwa, pero DTI is also a partner of the Kadiwa and Kadiwa sa Pasko stores.
Yes, opo.
We've heard some reports na medyo hirap ng kaunti sa supply ng ilang produkto yung ibang Kadiwa stores eh. And I also understand it's not naman every day that they're open. It's only on
Quincenas.
only certain days.
Quincenas lang.
Can you give us at least in broad strokes, ano ba talaga ang asahan sa Kadiwa and how often should people go to Kadiwa?
Yeah, well, I will speak po on the part of DTI.
Yes, ma'am.
Sa DTI po kasi, we are in charge of manufactured food products that we bring into the Kadiwa Descuento Caravan. Ito yung project ngayon. But we have actually been doing this in the past. The thing is, syempre, ang manufacturers will organize their own, they will mobilize, and then bring the goods and the people, their personnel doon sa Kadiwa. Kaya lang, we need to encourage them some more because, of course, it entails cost on the part of the manufacturers. And there are very low sales in the area, lugi po sila because they sell the products at manufacturer's price. Hindi naman po sila kagaya ng retail that there is already an add-on for the retailer. Ito po, presyo ng manufacturer. But if they generate very low sales during the day, syempre hindi po sila ma-encourage to join the next one. That's why we have also advised the Department of Agriculture na pipiliin natin yung lugar kung saan rin naman the people would have number one, more capability to buy, at saka mas marami pong tao, mas maraming mas accessible siya na mas madaling puntahan. Today, I understand that the Kadiwa was also done in Quezon City. Sa Quezon City naman po, yung area is easily accessible to the public, and then marami pong tao coming from all walks of life who can purchase their products there. Mas mababa talaga even the agricultural products, whether frozen or fresh, mas mababa rin ang presyo. So, we probably would need to promote Kadiwa some more.
Ma'am, you mean paiba-iba po yung locations ng Kadiwa stores? Hindi siya fixed? Kasi if that's the case, then medyo malilito nga yung tao kung saan pupunta at kung saan susunod magkakaroon.
That's right. Unfortunately, hindi siya fixed for the whole week probably. But we also have to move kasi ang objective nun is to be able to put Kadiwa the Kadiwa program in as many major cities as possible. Binababa rin natin siya up to the barangay level sa medyo munisipyo na or basketball court as long as there is high foot traffic para marami pong makakita at marami din na ma-encourage magbumili.
But ma'am, before that can then be expanded, because we did hear President Marcos saying na maganda nga na maibaba natin to sa maraming barangay, mas maraming maabot, but we're hearing that essentially both on the demand side, no, access ng mga tao to it, yung interest ng mga tao to go there, and even on the supply side, suppliers saying that either palugi kami dito or talagang wala kaming dito. Before that can therefore be expanded, how confident are we that this is actually a sustainable model?
I mentioned earlier, Robbie, that this has been a project that we have been doing in the past several years na. From my experience in DTI, for the manufacturers naman, hindi siya, mas madaling mag-encourage ng manufacturers. Unlike farmers na syempre, DA would have to shoulder transport cost para makadating doon sa kadiwa centers nila. I understand that DA is also encouraging as many farmers as possible to join. Tapos na pinpoint na rin nila kung sino yung mga kailangan nilang kausapin or the farmers themselves. Sila ang nagtutulong na magdala doon sa kadiwa centers. The thing is, baka meron pa rin kaming kailangan na areas to look into to improve and so that we can make suggestions to DA, who is, like you mentioned, the primary mover of the kadiwa.
I think it's interesting that you pointed out that some manufacturers are complaining of low sales. I mean, at a time when people are so worried about high prices, ngayong may mas mababa ang presyo, mababa ang bentahe. Can you give us an idea how big a problem that is, or what the numbers look like?
Not necessarily that the manufacturers are complaining, Ed, although, of course, we discuss it. And we discuss it with the manufacturers, and of course that is one area of concern. Kung dadalhin nila doon and then they will spend on personnel and logistics, tapos hindi very low ang sales nila, syempre, the next time that we invite them, medyo hindi na madali for us because we still have to continue convincing them. Although, the large manufacturers, yung medyo malalaki na, mas madali for them and it's easy to appeal to their corporate social responsibility para sumali dun sa programs natin. So, supply is not really a problem, except that also, if we bring in retailers, yung mga the large retailers natin, syempre ang presyo naman, we will have all the supply pero maiiba yung presyo because it's going to be retailer's price. And it will defeat our objective kasi ang objective natin talaga is to have these products available lower than the suggested retail price that we have in DTI. Kailangan po maging manufacturer's price siya na mas mababa talaga dun sa SRP natin to make sure that the project succeeds or that the project reaches or achieves its objective.
Ma'am, well, we're almost out of time. One last question na lang po. I mean, obviously, one of the things that can help is more information if people know also where to get that information. Whether it's Kadiwa or for that matter, mga SRP natin, and if they just want to track the goods, the prices, where the goods and the prices are, saan po sila pwede magpunta?
Oh yes, please. Thank you, Robbie. For that, it's very important. Lahat po ng information natin on consumer protection is easily accessible through our social media pages. We have DTI Consumer Care in Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And the QR code, also the invitation to subscribe to our DTI 1384 text messaging service is there in the social media pages. So sana po, since we are all internet users now, sana po we can access or we can subscribe, number one, to the DTI 1384 text messaging service. It's free. It will have no charge on your cell phone bill. Makaka-receive lang kayo ng mga information from DTI. And then the invitations and the schedules also of Kadiwa or Kadiwa Discount Caravan is also there. Lahat po ng programs ng Consumer Protection Group you will find in the DTI Consumer Care social media pages natin.
Okay, Yusek, maraming salamat po.
Thank you, ma'am.
Maraming salamat po. Thank you for the invitation. Good evening and advanced Merry Christmas po.
Maligayang Pasko po.
Merry Christmas.
Ma'am, matagal pa yun,
Baka
ma'am.
magkita pa tayo.
Sige po. Thank you.
Sige
Thank
po.
you.
Maraming salamat po. Undersecretary Ruth Castelo ng DTI.
Isang buwan pa.
And that is it for the Chiefs. We hope it was discussed. We'll keep the conversation going. I'm Robbie Alampay.
I'm Mami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star.
I'm Ed Lingao. We are One News, all sides, all the time.